Hi, I'm Dayna Del Val. I'm president and CEO of the Arts Partnership in Fargo, North Dakota. But I am also a 1995 Minnesota State University Moorhead graduate with a BA in Theater Arts degree, and I am a 2-year Straw Hat Players alum. And I am talking to you today from the vantage point of having sat with my husband, who is a professor in the Biological Sciences Department at MSUM this morning, through a town hall meeting with the president of MSUM, President Ann Blackhurst, and her administration, laying out some incredibly dramatic and, from my perspective, disheartening cuts to the programming and the direction of MSUM. And I'm really not here to criticize the decisions that President Blackhurst and her team have made. That's not for me to do. I'm not on the inside of those conversations. I'm not a university administrator, but I do lead the arts sector in our Tri-City community. And I do have an investment as a former graduate of that program and of that university. And so I'm here today to talk to you about why I think theater matters, and also to maybe present a cautionary tale of what I think the cutting of the theater program at a university has the potential to mean for the direction of, quite frankly, this country. So in December of 2019, I was more than honored to be invited to give the commencement address at MSUM. And I talked all about what I learned in my time as a theater degree at what was then MSU. And I went back today and I took a few notes because I wanted to make sure that I got these correctly. One of the things that I learned was how to take great big risks. No actor worth her or his salt doesn't sometimes stand, sometimes literally, often metaphorically naked on stage and reveal their most vulnerable selves only to be dismissed. You have to be a risk taker to be an actor. And I learned how to do that at MSU. I learned how to listen closely, how to react honestly, how to work collaboratively and independently, how to trust my own instincts, how to take judgment and criticism, and more importantly, how to survive judgment and criticism. And the most important thing that I learned in my time, that I think every person, whether they take one theater class or get a degree in it and go on to additional education, learns, and that was, I learned how to fail. And most importantly, I learned how to get up. Fall down and get up again and again and again and again. And the skills that I just laid out for you are skills that we want every entrepreneur to have, every STEM-driven employee to have, every person in the military, in medicine, in research, in politics, in every facet of our cultural fabric. That's what we want people to have. Do you know how to listen? Do you know how to respond? Do you know how to think critically? Do you know how to work with others and also work with yourself? Do you know how to take criticism? Do you know how to give constructive criticism? Do you know how to fail? Because every single person, bottom to top, left to right, will encounter failure somewhere in their life. Can you not only take it, but can you rise above it? Can you get up? Can you brush yourself off? And can you take the next step? That's what I learned in my theater degree, and I'm not singular in that learning. That's what we all learned in our theater degrees. So to me, to be cutting an entire degree leaves an enormous gap in the fabric of both the university and in particular in this community. If I think back to my time at MSUM from 1991 to 1995, I think everybody looks back on their time in college with rose-colored glasses. But I was there during some really golden years. I worked with actors who went on to have incredible careers, who went on to be regionally known, nationally known, recognized actors who moved into directing and arts administration and teaching and professional acting careers, and who started theater companies, who run programs, who've done remarkable work in the arts. If I think about my years at MSUM, I can tell you this. I don't really remember performing to non-sold out audiences. I remember my first summer of Straw Hat, the curtain coming up, my first night, first musical, Carousel, summer of 1992. Our tech director was on stage finishing painting a carousel. Michael Brannon was sitting on the horse. The curtains came up, and it was so stupendous that the audience applauded the opening tableau. And I remember in that moment understanding that I was someplace special. And I've never forgotten that moment. And every night felt like that. Every performance felt like that. You'd walk into the Thrust, now the Gaiety, and it would be filled with almost 300 people waiting to see your performance. Season tickets to Straw Hat Players sold out weeks in advance. If you didn't get a season ticket, you almost could never get in to see the show. It was an extraordinary time to be a young actor in this community, because this community supported the theater department at MSU in such beautiful ways. The university supported it. The business community supported it. It was a unique experience, kind of unlike anything else I've ever had. So part of why I am addressing this is because that isn't the case anymore. And I'm not here to discuss the quality of the performances or the productions at MSUM. That's also not my job. My job is to advocate for art. So I'm here to advocate for art. And I'm here to say that as a community, where are we? Because I was at a Straw Hat Players production last summer and there was hardly anyone there. And I'm as guilty as the rest of us. I don't get to everything at the universities, at the colleges. I don't. I absolutely do not. Well, guess what? Ticket sales matter. And community investment matters. And when we don't go, and when those seats sit empty, then it sends a message to administration that this is a program that doesn't matter as much as it maybe does. So I'm here to say, if there's a way that we can restore this program, then we have to do the most basic thing we can as a community, and that's buy tickets and go see the show. Netflix will be there. Go see the show. Go see live theater. Go support young actors. And that's true for NDSU and Concordia and the summer programs that are high school aged and college age. It's true for all of it, the community theater and Theater B, all of it. We've got to get our bottoms in the seats so that nobody can wonder if it matters to the community if theater is happening or not. I had an exchange with my brothers and my mom today. So my mom's a graduate, I'm a graduate, I have another brother who's a graduate, and then I have a younger brother who did not graduate from there. But my youngest brother is an engineer. And I want to read you this exchange because I wrote to these three people to tell them the news as I was watching it happen. And my engineering brother wrote and said, "You can see that there isn't much value placed on our students understanding themselves and humanity. This is very sad to see indeed. We will see this roll out across the country." Then he said, "We will likely see a return to the trades after this. I guess all we have to do is look to the 30s and early 40s. When there is no margin, we do what is essential. The longer that lasts, the smaller that list will become. Hopefully, that construction is temporary, though, because all those programs that got cut are vital to understanding a person's value, not just their utility. I would guess that less young people learn of psychology, arts, music, culture, and philosophy, the greater rise we will see in all that we are fighting now: racism, xenophobia, sexism, genderism. I don't know how it couldn't. And then I wrote to tell him that I appreciated his perspective and thoughtful response. And I said I knew he was an atypical engineer and that he really valued the arts. And as I was writing that, I thought that's actually a really unfair thing to say, because I know a lot of STEM people who value the arts. And he wrote and said, "Thanks for saying that. I have always valued that creative and humanities side of my experience far more than any technical training." So I am distressed as a graduate of that program, that program is on the cutting block. I am distressed as a person who believes in the liberal arts, that program and English and economics and a lot of programs have taken a huge hit. Nobody took the hit that theater took. Nobody lost an entire program, an entire degree. But I am distressed by that as a humanities, as a liberal arts believer. But as an arts administrator, I'm actually terrified of what this means. So we're in an unprecedented time, and I'm sorry to use that phrase. How many more times do we all have to hear someone say that on a screen? But we are. And in this moment, where we don't know how this will play out, we don't know what the return rate might be, all the unknowns are right on the surface. It's impossible to know how the arts will weather this storm. Impossible. Because the first things that get cut when there is crisis is the arts and humanities. The first things, always. And am I here to say to you that my work is as valuable as somebody feeding families, or as somebody housing families, or as somebody making sure that utilities get paid so families are not evicted from their apartments? Am I here to tell you that my work is that valuable? No. If we think of the world as being a pie that has a finite circle around it, then no. I think we need to feed people and make sure that people are in school and make sure that they are housed and clothed and not being abused, and all of the basic human services absolutely must be in place. But I'm here to tell you that we could be thinking of this from an infinite standpoint. We could. And the reason that I know that is because there's no money at the federal level for all kinds of things until suddenly there's trillions of dollars at the federal level. Money can be found when things are valued, federally, state, and locally. I am here to say that the arts are what are keeping people sane. The arts are what are bringing joy and comfort and peace and calm to individuals, to families, to communities. You're watching and experiencing more art in these periods of social isolation than at any other time in your lives. I know you are, because we all are. You're listening, watching, reading, experiencing, making art. That's what you're doing. So when foundations shift all their funding away from supporting the arts, and when businesses stop supporting the arts, and when individuals look at their 401ks and their investment portfolios, and they see that they're down and they diminish their giving to the arts, and when universities cut programs, and when people operate from a place of fear and metrics, the arts lose. And the problem with that is that the arts are what make us human. The arts are what, at the end of the day, sets us apart. They're what unites us as a species. Many of you have heard me say, there's not a person on the planet who doesn't recognize storytelling, music, dance, oral history, theater. It's the core of who we are. It's what sets us apart from other species. So this cut at the university could be a foreshadowing of what the rest of the art sector is going to experience in waves as we start to either stay in this period of social isolation or as we start to make our way out of that and are trying to get our bearings again. I'm here to encourage my community to not take that path. Accept that the arts are an enormous piece of what makes this community special. Get your season tickets. Send some money where you can. Lift your voice to let everybody who is in decision-making periods, decision-making positions, let them know that this work actually matters. It matters to the young engineers and the doctors and the lawyers and the athletes and the performers and the sensitive people and the brusque people and the highly educated and the lowly educated and the wealthy and the poor and the black and the white, and it matters to everybody. And every time we stop supporting them, it takes longer and longer for them to make their way back. We could do this differently. We could lean into this time and we could recognize the value that the arts are bringing to us, and we could choose to support them, and we could choose to stand up for them, and we could choose to not say, boy, that's too bad, and move on with our mindless scrolling through social media. Will you do that with me? Will you let Minnesota State University Moorhead understand how valuable the theater department is? They might still cut it. But even though I have great regard for President Blackhurst and her administration, and I know she's in a terrible spot, I want this decision to be made because every voice was heard. I want it to be the hardest decision that has to be made if it gets made. I want there to be such an outpouring of support for the theater department, for the people who came before, for those of us who are graduates, for the current students, for the future of the arts in this community. I want us to let MSUM know how important the arts are, because if we let this go, it does not speak well for where we will be as a community who supports and has access to the arts of any kind in the very near future. So we're in a scary, tough time. But the arts are what are saving us. Once we are fed, once we are healthy, once we know we're in a safe environment, the arts are what are actually saving us. Will you step in and help save the arts? MSUM's theater department needs it. All of the arts in Fargo-Moorhead, West Fargo needs it. All of the arts across the country and indeed across the globe needs your support. Think about what it has done for you in this time and support it however, whenever, and as often as you can. Thank you.